Welcome to Maker Conversations. I'm your host, Tiff Marchand from NIGHTCARVER Designs, and today on the show, I have a really awesome couple. They are the folks behind Gearheart Industries, and they're excited to be joining us at Workbench Con within about a month, which is crazy. I think we are almost 7 weeks away. So if you're heading to Workbench, make sure you come say hello. And if you haven't grabbed your ticket yet, you can use NIGHTCARVER to save $50. A huge thank you to Saburrtooth for sponsoring the show. You can use a NIGHTCARVER 10 in all caps to save 10% on their website. And if you're looking to learn how to power carve and you're in the New England area, make sure you DM me because I've got a bunch of different things happening. I've got classes happening in Vermont and I'm doing personal classes at my house as well. So feel free to reach out. And again, if you want to help support the show, feel free to shop any of the affiliates linked in my bio. All right, let's get to know Kristy and David, the fine folks behind Gearheart Industries who make really beautiful branding irons. I have one myself and I love using it. So anyways, let's dive in.
All right. Well, welcome, guys. I know.
Sorry, Tiffany. Hi.
No. I know you're traveling, so like it's a totally different thing. Do you normally set up the mics at home, David?
Yeah. I mean, we haven't done it a whole bunch, but I'm okay with like audio stuff. So generally, I can kind of I can set up a broadcast recording situation pretty okay, but yeah.
Full tech support is David, and then I typically handle all interfacing with human beings, unless I'm like, hey, we're gonna have a podcast, and you're gonna talk to Tiffany, and it's gonna be great. But like but yeah, I had an event one time with one of my clients had to be on air and like did like Newsmax, and he like came into the hotel suite and was like, dear, what is this? And David had like lighting and like a microphone and like he was like, oh yeah, it's like Tuesday, this is fine.
Yeah. I know when I hop on like a Workbench call and people see my like I'll have like the lights on once in a while and stuff, they're like, oh, like when they come in the room, I'm like, I record at night too. I'm like, there's a reason for it. Right. It's fun though. It creates a nice little ambiance, and if you can do it, it's cool.
And you have kids, right?
I do. Yeah. I actually literally right before I hopped on here, I was like, it's quiet time, like that mom scream. Because literally, I think they were all having a party in my son's bedroom right above I'm in a basement. I heard like a chair swirling. My husband's like singing a song. They're all like, boop, boop. I mean, they're having a great time. Good for them. But I'm like, you guys know, I said it was quiet time.
You're like, I love your joy, but knock it off.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You quit playing around in that room. Go another one and put a TV on, sadly. They're 7. It's almost time to go to bed anyways. It's good.
Yeah.
How old are you?
We have a 4-month-old. Yeah. And
David's eyes went 7.
Did you say they are 7 or there are 7?
Oh no, there's not 7. Gosh, no.
Okay, I was like, wow, that's
they are.
impressive.
I have twins. Sorry, I always just call them they because I have twins.
Right.
I was like 7 of them. Yeah, that is a party. That's like the basketball team with substitutions.
I say I lose my shit already. I don't know if I need 7 of them. By my God, people do. Good for them.
No.
But
no,
so
just
4-month-old, you guys are right in the mix of it. Like you just got through that first 3 months, which is like crazy.
My eyes were like moving, like not together as a team. Like they're no, it's tough. It's really tough. Like, you had 2 of them at the same time. That feels like being on the greatest race with like no map or cell phone or partner. Yeah, I mean, she's wonderful and lovely, and also like
there's just a lot of work.
They're just like drunkards. They're like babies or like little drunkards who only are just like milk or like and so now she's like has a bit of a personality, and sometimes it's not a great one. Sometimes...
Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like it's going to be my personality, so like, it's just going to have like a she's kind of quiet, and so I'm like, all right, well, she's just gonna kind of like look at things and observe them and kind of scowl.
She's real judgmental already.
Yeah.
Like today I folded something wrong and she audibly, her face was like, I was like, dude, yeah.
I love those. Oh man. I thought you froze down there for a minute. They was like, oh no.
No, this is just, again, this is just my face.
Well, guys, I'm excited that you decided to join us and that you guys want to come to Workbench Con. Like, I think that's really cool. When you guys reached out, I had mentioned I already had an iron from many, many years ago. So I was like, oh yes, I know your brand. So I'd love to talk about basically both of you, find out your whole history of like what you've done before this, how you got into this, but also just a little background on the company. When did it start?
It's had sort of a fuzzy start date because when I initially started making branding irons, it was I was selling them on Etsy under a different company name.
Okay.
And it was just sort of a part-time gig, and then I burned out. And because it's like I went through one Christmas season and I think I had to make like 4 in 1 week, and I was like, this is too much work. I already have another job, it's just, and so I kind of gave it up for a while. And then I was talking to somebody and they're like, that's so cool. I was like, yeah, I used to make branding irons, kind of like this, like I've done some things and I like this
Yeah.
sort of flex. And then they're like, that's so cool. Why don't you do it anymore? And I realized I didn't really have a good reason. And so I started back up, and I guess that was probably around like 2012. And so, it just like went from doing it in my garage on one machine that I had to do manual tool changes on to having a shop full of machines like I have now. So it's been,
Like, I know that life. I'm living that life, my one machine life.
yeah, it's it's one of those things, like when you expand, it's it's good to expand, and I like making money, but I also miss being hands-on to the extent that I was, and I've had to be pretty deliberate in kind of getting back to that, because it doesn't happen by default. If you aren't mindful of it and you don't engineer a work situation that requires you to continuously innovate, you will be like, you will grow yourself into an office. And that can be cool, and there are times where I enjoy that, but it's just not where my head is. And I think a lot of crafters and makers end up facing that as success is a double-edged sword. And frequently we're not very good at the office stuff. I mean, I have an intuition about the office stuff. It's like, but it's one of the great things about meeting Kristy is that she's really good at the stuff that I frankly hate. Like I really enjoy playing business guy for a relatively short period of time. But then after that, I want to go and load parts in a machine or build something. And it's that hat switching has always been very difficult for me. So, and I've also, another thing that makers tend to experience is if you're not careful, you can bring on the wrong business person. And
sure.
So you can, especially if you just want to be in the shop, you can make decisions that put you in the shop, but they also hamstring your growth. So it's a hard thing to navigate. I've been very lucky at how I've navigated it. And even then I have not managed to avoid some things that have cost, time and money and certainly caused a good bit of frustration over the past decade or so.
I like that you mentioned that though, because I'm at the point where I have a product that I am coming out with very soon. I've been like working my way up to it, but it's like, I don't want to produce it. So then how do I want to have it produced? It's one of those things where I want to spend time in the shop carving and not over here playing laser girl all day. Like, I just don't want to be on the laser. Put me with the CNC, put me out there power carving. That's where I want to be. So I'm trying to like figure out what avenue I want to go to have somebody produce it. And like, cause like, do I want to have them just like a maker make them for me and then I package them all at my house? Or do I want to just hand off the reins and just like get a tiny cut of that product? You know what I mean? Like, that's where I'm battling. And like you said, you could bring on the wrong business partner. So it's such a topic that I think is very important that we are all just kind of transparent about. Like, there's so many hard choices and it does dictate where you go if this is going to be your full-time career. So
you didn't ask,
cool.
But you don't want to hand it off. You didn't ask it, but you don't. I'm gonna tell you.
Yeah,
You don't
I
want to
tend to
hand it
think
off. Don't do
that's
that.
probably
Well,
yeah.
it's funny is I haven't.
Yeah.
So like I went through, I did like meetings, found out like what would it be, blah, blah, blah. And I haven't made that jump. And I'm like, no, I need to go a different avenue. I'm like, I just need to have somebody ship me the parts and then I put them together and then I'm the one
Mhm.
fulfilling those orders. But again, like then I gotta get someone, i.e. my husband, involved and make him do that kind of shit. Cause he doesn't want to be on the computer doing the business stuff either. Nobody does unless you love that stuff. But like I could handle most of that stuff and then have him be my shipper, like just got a shipping team. But yeah, like those are those things though that you can make the wrong choice. And now so for why did you jump in with automatically you don't? Have you experienced it? I'm
Yeah.
curious.
And I don't
Yeah.
know if you can hear her. Like we have a sitter right now and I can hear the baby.
Oh,
So
it's
she's like coming
fine.
in.
You might
Sorry.
hear a
Okay.
ball bounce and kids scream. That's
I'm like,
Drywall crack dust
yeah.
floating
They're
down from the
cracked
ceiling.
out.
It's like
Yeah,
um,
seriously.
well, I think, on a personal note, like Gearheart has gone through some phases and I just to like speak in defense of my husband's like super critical of himself, David is, but he grew a very successful business from nothing. Like the first, and I hope he tells the story, and if he doesn't, then I guess I'm here, I'll tell it anyway.
That's
But
why I
like
invited
he
you.
used to find parts, like the first couple branding irons he made came out of a dumpster, basically. Like he took scrap metal and then he found a broom handle part and then he made a branding iron, sold it on Etsy. Like that is in itself the American dream.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's incredibly impressive and it's super feasible it's not easy. Like there's a suck. And the thing that I think makers, I have a background in campaigns and nonprofits. And so it's just this huge dopamine and cortisol, like churn is my backstory, right? So it'd be like
Mm-hmm.
2-year starts, you have a football finish, and then you're just done, and you're like, what do I do? Okay, like do it again. So to find the consistency of a job is both really nice, and then also I find myself like seeking the adrenaline hit, and I'm like, that's not healthy. Like maybe just like calm down. But no, I mean, I think anytime you give a part, whether it be, at least in my experience, like campaign rhetoric, business tone, social media over, as much as you can retain the business side of it, even if you're getting burnout in it, or at least find somebody who will report into you, be more of a teammate.
Right.
The more authentic and the more true to your voice it's going to be, the suck's going to be there longer. Like, because I think in business, and at least in campaigns, when I would like teach, how do you do this? How do we launch? How do you stay in it? I would always tell them, like, you just have to get through the suck, and the suck's never going to go away, but you are going to level. So you're going to like build,
I love it.
stay, suck, stay. And I think it's the same as I come on and I run our social media, and I'm certainly not good at it, but like we launched a TikTok today. It felt like a big moment. I was like,
Hey, congrats.
video
Congrats.
uploaded. I found a hashtag. We're
But
about
it's
to
a
get our
start.
shop verified.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, don't hand it off. Long ramble short. Don't do that.
Yeah,
I
my
haven't.
take, my take on it is that if like, I'm a big fan of outsourcing components and then doing assembly. Is it gives you substantial control over the quality of the final product, and depending on what you're doing, having somebody do all of the work and then ship you a finished good can, things can kind of get out of hand. And you also, depending on what it is, I mean, there's very little that we do that can't be duplicated, right? Like, we're not developing really complex software or anything like that. It is somebody with a set of calipers could very easily reproduce, and a knowledge of machining could reproduce, the product of most manufactured products. And but it's the idea of having trusted partners is paramount to running a small business. If you get into a bad contract, it can sink you.
Yep.
If you choose the wrong, if you choose a wrong person, like if you outsource an entire project and you give it to somebody, and perhaps this is overly paranoid, but if you give somebody the recipe for literally everything you're doing, In a sense, you're kind of training your competition, and I think that outsourcing parts does afford you the ability to kind of first off, you can go to an expert in for each particular
Exactly.
component, and second, you're not those people aren't wanting to compete with you. And if you go to somebody who is kind of a jack of all trades and makes finished goods, you're essentially training your competition to a degree. And
Exactly.
so, and I think there's something to be said for, I think there's something to be said for avoiding that kind of stuff. And I wish it weren't that way, but I've definitely run into those problems myself. And
Yeah.
you
It's
know,
hard. And like you said, it can be easily produced. When somebody sees something, once you give them the outline, they're gonna be like, oh, okay, well then I'll just do that now, you know? So yeah, I have been keeping this under the wraps for like 2 years now. And I'm just like, all right, I gotta launch this. I gotta do it. I'm like, it is time. We've prototyped. I know I don't like to do it here because it's just awful. It's acrylic on a laser. It's just
oh yeah,
dreadful. Nobody wants that. So make somebody else who has a big shop take care of that.
yeah, and and sometimes you can harness economies of scale, or a lot of times you can harness economies of scale on that stuff, and then it
Yeah.
makes even more sense. But yeah, gosh, and sorry, I've been up since the wee hours since I flew to Atlanta today.
No
But
worries.
you were saying, gosh, there was a turn of phrase that you used that for some reason piqued something in my brain that just
Oh,
slipped
now I'm
away like a
so
little
curious.
goldfish.
Listen, if it
Uh,
comes back, that's
oh
okay.
yeah, you said prototyping, the endless
Yes.
prototyping stage. I love doing endless prototyping. We're finally launching a product that I mean, I bought an entire machining center specifically for this project, probably like 2.5 years ago. And it's just been, for a variety of reasons, it's been almost impossible to get it to a production ready stage. And finally we've gotten there. And there was a lot of like production like communication issues and stuff like that internal in the shop that were just kind of hamstringing stuff. But it's yeah, it is. I'm also the type of person that will endlessly improve things. So I guess that's what you said was the word prototype, and
Prototype.
now I'm going on a tangent. The prototyping stuff, it's like I'll get something that's actually market ready, and then I'll be like, I need to improve this, and then I'll improve it some more, and I'll improve it some more, and before too long, I've spent an inordinate amount of money prototyping the thing. I've gone through 3 iterations, all of which were market ready and could have been version 1, version 2, and version 3 in the market, but instead I'm like, okay, it's time to launch. Yeah, I don't know.
I talk about this all the time with like paintings. You never just know when you just stop and leave one well enough. You know, it's like it's hard to walk away once you're in something so much. But that's what we were
Yeah.
talking about, Kristy, when we were on a call about like Workbench and stuff. You were saying just how your brain works, David. She was talking about how you just like want to be in this shop and you just want to be focused. So that makes sense that like that is your personality, that you're just going to keep perfecting something. Is that something like what were you doing before? Like what was your day job before this?
I was a machinist.
Okay.
So yeah, so I went to an engineering school, and I never used a degree. So I just basically worked in the trades, doing a whole bunch of stuff and acquiring various skills like over the past 20 some odd years. And I was in a machining phase when I figured out I could make branding arts. But I've also just I've been sort of designing and inventing stuff my entire life, none of which has been technologically complex enough to merit patents or anything. So it would have been 60 years ago.
That's
Was
cool though that
born too late.
you, but you found a passion for something like that. And then you said you met Kristy. How long ago was that? Did you come on board?
We
Ooh,
met
touchy subject.
we
Ooh.
no.
Don't do the math. We have been we met, I guess, in July of 2022. So so Kristy came on board and immediately integrated herself into my life very quickly, and has been a major force multiplier for sure.
Well, I don't know but as far as like my brain regarding like planning, because that's what I get paid to like take someone's good idea fairies, what I call them. They're like, what if we had a machine that dropped a unicorn out of a mountaintop, and then that unicorn like spit glitter at everyone and you paid a fee, and then I'm the one who's like, okay, but how much fuel and like what do we feed the unicorn, and where do you want to drop it off, and does it have to have a paddock, and if it has a paddock, like who's feeding it? So for me, like our whole relationship was kind of nuts because we were married, pregnant, living, like bought a new house, moved into the new house. David flipped it under a year.
Wow.
And so he flipped it by hand, which at like, I mean, you've been pregnant, but like 6 months pregnant, I'm like I'm just like a psychopath. I'm like, fucking finish. Sorry, it's podcast.
No,
finish.
This is an adult podcast.
Finish the
Sure,
house.
all you want.
And he, poor baby, is like literally painting every room in this house, like pulling up floorboards, carpets are coming out. And I'm like, great, I'm just moving along. Let's go.
That's some high stress for sure.
Yeah, it's been, we've like just being like plugging into the business together has been one of the least stressful things that we've done, which I think for most people would be like, oh, we are, it's like this is a major source of stress in our relationship. But like, well, we hit the fast forward button on, I think what would have taken most people a good like 4 or 5 years to do. We're doing this. Well, we didn't really say we're doing this all at once. It just sort of happened all at once and we handled it.
Basically, yeah.
I got engaged within about a year with my husband, married within 2 years, twins the next year after that. So I understand like a fast, like, boom, all of a sudden your life has completely changed. But that's cool though. So when you've come on board now, you're really, like you said, analyzing everything, trying to like make sure everything is handled. How do you feel like everything's been changing for the business?
I think it's tough. I love Gearheart. I'm the newest person on the team. They're like Megan Foster, to give her a shout out, is our office manager. And she's been with Dave basically as soon as Dave decided, like, I don't ever want to answer an email again. And God bless her, like from when it was just the two of them, like all the way through. So she is an integral part to like everything we do in the company. And I think, so I give her a shout out to say, like, one, she's fabulous. And two, we've got people that have been there for years. And then as the new person, I think the business is going well. There's like streamlining in regards to how we interface and sell to customers, and then some like optimization, frankly, and like getting David out of his own way, which I think is the key part to almost anything you're doing, like if you're the creator of a company. I think it's really rare to have both the like, I can build it and we launch it business brain. And so because of my background, there's just a lot of like, we're doing it live. Let's go, move it along. Like we're the candidates launching, we're doing the product, you're talking to press, you're doing. So it's it's going really well. I'm super excited about the 2 new products we have coming out. One of them should come out this week.
Oh, very soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Little late for Christmas, but early for the new year.
Right.
People are gonna have that money after Christmas.
Right.
Hopefully.
We've got it'll be exclusive here. We have an ice brander coming.
Oh, very cool.
Which will be pretty dope, and they're very fun to play with. You don't have to light them on fire, which is kind of a bummer for me. But we wanted to make something that was like kind of rounded out Gearheart for just not just the maker out there, right? Like let's say you're really into custom cocktails, you just want to play with this giant piece of metal. It's a cool and sleek thing to do, and it also provides us an ability to do some stock product that's like an alphabet or whatnot.
Yeah,
we'll still give you the customization. Like if you want your face on an ice cube, like we will make that happen for you. But if you don't, then that. And I think that goes towards like the business side of it, right? Like how do we innovate? How do we expand outside? It's an ever growing and competitive market, just for people's attention. And so we've got to be a little bit louder than I think we have been previously.
No, I think that's
Yeah,
great.
and that's something that Kristy's really good at is I mean, talking to people. And one of the things that we've been deficient about is particularly over the past couple of years is leveraging our brand identity. That sounds like such a corporate douchebag way to say it. Who leverage our brand identity? We haven't been real people, and
Mhm.
and our socials. It's our socials for a couple of reasons. Our socials get kind of neglected, and our website. The somebody had a good idea fairy came along, was like, let's simplify and make it really sleek. And it's like, well, that's great, but if there's no people on the website, and um and it had kind of become uh sort of deoxygenated and too sleek, frankly, and wasn't really succeeding at sleekness, but also wasn't a personable, like didn't smell authentic, and didn't smell like a genuine product that people built for other people. And frankly, I tend to be kind of a depressive, and when things are when I'm like, I suppose this is kind of this is echoes my personal life, that when I feel bad and lonely, the last thing I want to do is solve loneliness by reaching out to somebody, right? I'm like, I'd like curl up into a ball. And in a way, the problems with the problems with the company weren't things. I mean, there were things that kind of I enjoy once I undertake them, but I'm not like, I mean, the idea of engaging with people is kind of terrifying to me. And doing marketing and all that sort of stuff. And Kristy's really good at that, and is also good at encouraging me to do stuff and reach out and talk to people, which is vital to the regrowth of the company, in the sense that we're regrowing social media channels, and we're regrowing a brand identity, and in some cases growing it completely new. I mean, there were things that I kind of naturally did because I was being a barbarian in the shop, and I posted, it's like early on, post stuff that kind of had an attitude toward, because I was uninhibited to a large degree. But once the business grew, and I have and I start thinking about the import of each post and all this sort of, it's kind of paralyzing, man. And so, like, it's been really good to have her on, because she's bold. I can be brave about certain things, but I'm not bold when it comes to people, generally speaking. And well,
Not
when you're
everybody
doing
is though, and it is a challenge, and a
yeah, but
lot of
when you're
people
doing
face that.
marketing, like,
I
you
know.
have to be.
No, you
It's
do.
like
You do. And I
I'm
love
like,
that she's pushing you out for that, because the nice thing is when you go to these events and you're going as your team, people are going to be coming to you and approaching you too. So like you don't really have to be ready. You just need to know your company, which I know you know. So
yeah,
it's going to
and I
be
like
great.
talking to people.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah. It's
do.
just getting out there.
I don't like, it's like, I don't like, yeah, there's just things that I would never do. I mean, there's plenty of things that I enjoy that I'm like, oh, wow, I would never would have, like, we started doing cold plunges. Okay. It's one thing about
Yeah.
cold plunges. It's like, as soon as you start doing them, it's like immediately you start telling everybody that you're doing them. It's kind of, it's an irritating feature of cold plunges that the
You got to
primary
share about
benefit
it.
is talking about it. And but like, it's like, I would have never done that. I hate cold water, man. And
Mhm.
like, and she's like, let's cold plunge. So, okay, cool. The pool's 44 degrees, and she cannonballed into it. I was like, well, I'm not going to do that. But I've worked up to like, to immersing myself, and I enjoy it, and I enjoy the benefits of it. But I literally, regardless of the fact that I knew it was a good idea, and I knew it had,
Lots of benefits.
purported
Yeah.
substantial benefits, I never would have done it, because I have this hang up about it. And the marketing and outreach and stuff like that's the same way. And I mean, frankly, it's like, yeah, I'd be screwed without Kristy. So, it's um I don't know, as I've gotten older, I've recognized the substantial limitations that I have, and extraordinary luck that I've had running the business up to this point. I was like, well, gosh, this is really kind of divine providence that I found this person or she found me that it brings such a tremendous benefit.
Oh,
That's great.
Thanks, babe.
It's nice to hear, right?
Yeah. No, I think it's good, but I think for me is like, I feel the same way in that I always played a support player on my different like teams, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like there's but I think what gets tiring, at least for me, is when you're continuously the support player and you don't necessarily see the lateral benefit, right? And so here I'm happy to be the support player, happy to reach out. No one can be meaner to you than the American public during an election season. It's just not possible. So like a curmudgeonly woodworker, a salesperson who says no, like whatever, I don't care. At this point, it's just sort of like beaten into me. Like there's 7 billion people in the world.
Right.
I can sell more of this product. I just need to talk to more of them and convince them that it's a good idea. But what's so lovely in this scenario, I think both in the business relationship and the marital relationship, is like I'm hypersensitive, like very emotional, hate hurting people's feelings. But when you're doing business, it's not like a product of that, but it is, you're just going to step on people if you're to the best of your ability. You're going to try not to, but you do step on toes. You don't mean to. You're learning as you're going. And David will be like, okay. Like, why? Like, why are you
is that
talking
bothering you? Yeah.
Yeah, I've driven that bus into a ditch. I have no desire to micromanage or really macro manage that stuff. And so, people pay a lot of lip service to partnership and relationships. And but I think the genuine partnership in this case is like, oh, I suck at that. Like, I'm like, please, you are better than me at this. Like because I don't know. I've been in situations where I've been brought on as somebody who's kind of an expert. And then the person who brought me on, like, it's like, I'm like, hey, this is a great idea. They're like, have you thought about doing it this way? They're like, well, you obviously have. Why the fuck am I here? And and so and I don't want to be that kind of husband. And then I also don't want to be I also is particularly with somebody like Kristy, who has a vast array of successes in arenas that I have utterly failed in. The last thing I want to do is be like, hey, if she has an idea, I mean, you kind of don't even have to tell me. I don't know what I'm doing, like it's probably a great idea. Just do it. Like, we're on equal footing with that. And, so yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things that I just, I'm like, why don't you tell me like how this works? Cause I don't even understand, but if you think it's a good idea, then it almost certainly is. So please do it.
That's great. Is that why we're thinking about maybe like starting to meet with influencers and kind of like spreading the word that way and trying to grow? Yeah, I love it.
I think
in this day and age.
I think twofold, right? It's so in addition to like how Gearheart was kind of built, was David owned a cabinet shop, did custom woodworking, wanted a branding iron but couldn't afford it, got frustrated, built one himself. Like, he just finished these cabinets for my birthday. And I think that story rings really true for a lot of people, and a lot of makers out there. And I want to be really upfront. Like, I can't make anything. I can make dinner, but like that's the extent of my like creativity in regard. So what you guys do to use the Royal U is like super impressive to me. And so I think it's important to be able to meet, and everybody right now is seeking so clearly for authenticity. And they want to know, why you've got this huge Amazon out there. And not to say that Amazon's the devil. Like, we had 4 packages show up from Amazon today. but there's a space and a place, and it's important that the makers that use our product that are building something, whether you have 100 followers or you have 100,000 followers or you have 1,000,000 followers, like have a space to feel seen. And I think what I see as a huge gap in the tooling community is that you guys are not highlighted enough.
I like that a lot.
You are not given the space and the time, and then you're expected to build the product and video the product and then make the reel and then post the reel and then compete with these giant box stores. And you're like, shoot me in the face. Like, what the fuck? And so if Gearheart can be a conduit to a kind community, then great. Like, let's foster that. So, let's send out irons right now and see, like, we are going to work with a guy named Logan Newman, who's been a huge supporter of ours for years. He does woodworking in Rochester, New York. He builds, he's a teacher, and he teaches underprivileged youth how to like build their own eyeglasses so they can get into a trade when they go back in. Like,
it's really
Logan
cool.
is
I know
just,
you're talking about.
Just dope. Like, he's an awesome guy, super nice. He does not need our Instagram following. He's got a good one on his own. But like, that's something that was really cool to connect on a personal level. And what's also nice is, like, as I kind of ramble, is like each person I've reached out to be like, hey, I love what you're doing. Like, hey, can we help? There's not been a single person to say no.
Yeah.
And I have never done this before in a sales commodity. I've always done it for somebody in like a political arena, which you get told no all the time. So it's lovely for me because I'm like, oh, we can like chat and it'd be fun. And I can learn. Great. Let me set it up on, like, so, I just think it's important to help people feel seen, and what you're making matters. And if Gearheart can be a small part of that, then we want to do that.
I love that. That's how we feel. Like, so I don't know if you guys know, I work for a company called Saburrtooth Power Carving as well. And I do I'm the social media director there, and I work with influencers there. So I get to scout out different artists. And I think, like, hey, they're not using anything to shape right now. And how can I help them get their craft to the next level if we're able to give them some tools? So, like, I love being like that little fairy tapping into people. I'm like, hi.
Yeah.
Hi, can I help you? And you help us. Like, I know I want content. I do want something, but it's so nice to be able to help tap into people and ask them, like, will you help me if I help you? Because I get to watch them after our deal is done. If they want to tag us, fantastic. Thank you. Please do use our hashtag. Please tag us. But I get to see what they're making afterwards. I'm like, oh my God, look how far their art has come from, because it's a lot of scroll saw artists. And to be able to watch like them go from something that's very 2-dimensional to now starting like making these 3-dimensional things, it's really rewarding. So I'm sure you guys feel the same way. So you're seeing somebody who can't afford a laser, they don't have the room, or what they're making doesn't like work, and they need that branding iron. So like, they might not be able to afford that investment in them. And if you're able to help them with that too, that's just going to help them make them look more professional and get their name out there in the world. Because we should be signing our pieces, but not all of us think about it, So it's
also
nice.
like lighting a branding iron on fire is really fun.
You were so disappointed when we said you couldn't bring torches into Workbench.
I was so sad. I was like, can there be open flame? Tiffany, clearly, no.
That was like one of the main objectives in the meeting. Like, can we please burn something?
Yeah, the underwriters frown on that. Over the years, I've done a couple of public events where like we didn't notify anybody that there was going to be open flames.
They're like,
yeah, it's exciting, and but usually
the
it's
sound of it clicking on.
Yeah, come on, guys. Get on board.
You start dragging in propane tanks, and they're like, what's all this?
Yeah, I have a kitchen. Why can there be open flame in a kitchen, but I can't have it in the whatever?
Yeah, you know what? The electric ones are a great way to showcase the product.
I'm leaned in. I want to be heard on this.
Yeah, it's we definitely, I don't know, man. There's a lot of Like building community is another thing that people talk about. They're like, "Ooh, let's say building community," and it's like, well, what does that actually mean? And most people, when they say building community, they mean expanding our customer base. And it's like essentially they're just getting a bigger sales list. If that's your idea of community, well, it's not. And from an etymological standpoint, it's not community. It's there's no communion and togetherness there. There's kind of a top down hierarchy. And I say that as somebody who is a committed capitalist who runs a business that sells stuff that does not preserve life or limb or feed anyone necessarily directly. So I don't have any problem with I don't have any problem with just being sales oriented. But one of the things that we want to do is yeah, I don't know. We give more people a voice, and we're still kind of figuring that out.
Of how to feature people and stuff.
Yeah, and because I mean, we do. It's like some of the people that we want to feature are more famous than we are on the interweb, and so it's but we admire what they do, and also there may be. I don't know. Is serving as some sort of common locus for some type of unfortunately I don't think I can articulate it quite right now. I'm going to blame that on being tired.
There's a right mix of how you should showcase though the people that work with you. We've tried a few different things. We had a podcast at Saburrtooth that I ran for a year, which was a ton of fun, but we also do every day. We feature people on our page too. We're always trying to showcase hey, check out this art. We've had lives, we've done so many different ways to try to build that community. And now I feel like everybody's just enjoying just seeing just the sharing to the stories and meeting different artists that way. It's really kind of fun to just showcase those people that you work with. And some people do blogs on their website too, to kind of just feature a person once a week or once a month, this is our featured maker. I do think it's important to show people that you are watching and you do appreciate what they're doing. It's really fun. The podcast, I got to I hung out with George Majiska, Eric Curtis, really cool makers out there, and just chatted, about how they got into carving, but also just how they started in their life. So it's really just so nice to really get to know the people that you work with like that. So
yeah. And I think
cool.
Oh, sorry, man.
Oh, whoops. I was no, go ahead.
You chatted about if this was going to happen.
I was like, I'm going to step on you by accident the whole time.
No, what I was going to say is that David's also an artist. This is his behind me. And I think that's one of the first reasons that I when we started dating, however short the mating process, the courtship was, that's one of the reasons that I fell in love with him, is because I have no ability to do any of what you guys do, and I have such a respect for it. And so it's great from just kind of, I mean, for lack of a better term, a voyeuristic standpoint, to be able to come in, see what these people make, provide a tool if they need it or want it. And then also we said, we're capitalists. And so I think something Gearheart hasn't done for a while, and it's exciting to do it, is to listen to you guys and figure out, what do you need? So and how do we apply that skill elsewhere, and what can we expand to, and how do we expand beyond just the maker community? But that also gives voice to the maker community, because our hope is, if you're following our page and if we have maker content on our website, but you're buying the ice brander or whatever else we come out with, and that has nothing to do with carving, you may see a product by someone else that we can give a runway to.
You said, you say, well, I don't know how to do what you guys do and all this sort of stuff. But it's, you use the word voyeurism. And I think that's actually a pretty good, it's kind of a good word. There's in the sense that, one of the things that I'm guilty of doing is that if I produce content, it's the kind of stuff that I want to see. Right. And well, that's cool, because we sell to people like me that do things like me and think like me, but there's a lot of people out there who may be interested in the product or may just want to watch the story. I can't tell you how many. I mean, how many dermatologists, dermatologist videos have I watched? And I was like, I don't care about blackhead excavation necessarily, and nor do I want to become an expert in it. But it's captivating to a degree, and there's a very good possibility that that I have it's almost a certainty that I have a blind spot as far as content development and everything else that prevents me from generating content that might be appealing to people who don't do what I do or think like I think. And so, yeah, if there was a way to, and I think that there is, if I could if we could put videos on social media or develop our own content that is maybe appeals to the maker community because of the people involved, or tertiarily to something that they do, or presents what they do in a way that is not directed at other members of the maker community, that it might be somehow appealing or interesting or even voyeuristically appealing to
captivate them.
To an outside. Yeah, if it's captivating and interesting stuff, then yeah, I'm not capable of thinking that way. And somebody who admires, I feel like somebody who admires, like a person who's a fantastic painter, can certainly communicate about painting in a way that non-painters can't. But I also would like to think that somebody who's just very fascinated by painting, but doesn't have the least technical acumen, can probably talk about painting in a way that the painter themselves can't. And so I think it's a really valuable perspective, and it's one that I don't think is exploited very much because, frankly, it's kind of the scene that I was going to use a very obscene metaphor. It's a recursive. It's sort of all these scenes are kind of Ouroboros sort of scenes, in the sense that we eat what we make, and we produce stuff for other people that are already in the circle, and it kind of becomes becomes a little bit cliquey. And I think that there are ways to escape that vortex, and that's something that I think Kristy definitely brings, and will probably continue to amplify as we develop a stronger voice there, and she gets more under her belt with the company itself.
Have you gone out there yet to just try to make one?
To make what?
A branding iron?
No, I feel like Patrick's gonna hear this and be like, you absolutely could not. I was about to really arrogantly say that I feel like I could press the start button on the machine. But that was a bold-faced lie. I can't do that. No, I have not.
And there's zero need for you to, by the way. You don't need to do something
I want to
be able to,
I do want to know, and I actually think I was thinking the other day it would be hilarious content for me to make one, and the boys in the shop to run me through the process.
You absolutely should.
Especially if it was the smart brander and it required welding, and the electrical. Just as I talk through this, the jargon that I'm not using correctly is just such a key identifier of how just legally blonde this would be, except she graduates from Harvard. But no, I don't know how to do it. I do. On one of our very first dates, I found the branding iron, and I was one of them just lying around, and I was like, can I light this on fire? And then proceeded to brand random wood that was just in the shop, and he was like, okay, that's really put it down.
She's branding all your imported woods. Woo!
Basically, yeah.
I was saving that piece of teeth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
What did you do?
Yeah.
Actually, that would do me a favor if you had branded, I'm thinking of a particular large slab of teak that I have. It's if that had been branded, I'd be like, okay, well, it's now time to do something with it. And I've had that for 15 or 16 years. And
You
I'm
have a mission now.
Yeah, one day this project is I'm gonna do something with this. It'd be like, maybe now.
But no, I can't make it. That'd be hilarious content.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I also thought it'd be a funny series of like, can I make, like, David made our coffee table, like one of the first pieces of furniture he ever made. And I was like, what would my coffee table look like?
You gotta have fun with that.
It would not be usable, but it would probably be funny. I'd just be like boxes turned over. I'd be like, what? You're right.
Do you guys know Call Me Maybe? He works for Total Boat. Do you know him at all?
No.
He is a videographer that he works in the making industry. He's worked in the making industry for quite a while now. Before that, he used to film like awesome like concerts and music videos and things like that. So he is not a maker. And lately he's been having a series where he's learning what we all do and he starts doing it. And he's just having so much fun. Like, watch me make the worst epoxy table ever, and then like go through it. And he actually came over to my house the other day and he wanted to do like a watch me make a horrible spoon video. His spoon came out beautiful because I'm a good teacher. But I just think it's really cute because that's kind of what he's doing now. He's having a fun little spin-off series just for himself of like, watch me dive in and do the stuff that I've been watching all of you guys been doing and filming it for years.
Because you make it look so easy and like not at all.
It's because we
like
cut
I
out
could
all the
lose a
hard
finger.
parts.
Yeah, like so much of what you do day to day could end up so violent.
Yes.
But like
I've lost a lot of skin on rotary burrs. So yeah. I've like almost skin graft level on a couple of occasions.
Oh wow. Safety.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's relatively safe.
Yeah, my fingertips have definitely all been hit. I'm sure.
Yeah. I've got a lot of. I used to have the letter G branded onto one of my thumbs, and it was there for years. And it's finally kind of grown out to the point where you can't really see it. But a
hilarious injury though. Horrible. So like that's awful, but also like kind of funny to just look down and constantly just see like a G. Like
it was perfect. It was like perfectly sized for my thumbprint and everything. It was, it was aesthetically, it wasn't bad, but at the time it wasn't particularly fun.
Oh no.
No, do you know, just like as a complete tangent, when I was trying to get to know more of the business and catch up, like Dave tells it, but in my head, I'm like, Megan really knows like the dirt, like what's going on, right? And I don't know how we got to this topic, but she was telling me that people used to send in branding iron requests to like brand people. Oh. And then Dave would have to look and be like, no, that's a weird cult. We're not doing that. Ooh. So I'm thinking about you with the G. I'm like, how many people? And so every time, like today, I looked it up. It's a business, but a symbol came in and I was like, what is that? And I like for a moment I had like hot sweaty panic that it was like for some weird cult because we've had to turn
a couple logos down, just for because they it's groups that like are strongly not identified with anything that we want to be identified with, and it's like, oh okay, yeah, all right, well, best of luck with your woodworking project, Mr. Asshole. But we're not doing that. You're gonna need to get somebody else to do it. It's the people branding thing. I like tattoos and I did have there was a guy who was really interested in that, and I just like when we used to get a lot more of those requests, and I guess maybe somebody is doing them officially now, and perhaps they're just taking all of that business. People go directly to them,
but sure they're getting it if they're advertising for it.
Yeah, well, there was a time where I was like, like when we were, it was like, I just gotten the business out of my garage and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, I've got to be really careful about what we align ourselves with right now. And if I become the human branding company, it's potentially, I was like, there's no such thing as bad publicity, but is that really true?
Those videos, man, those videos are not the ones that no one like. I mean, yes, there are people who probably would love to watch that, but also, do you want to be associated with those videos?
No, and it's not going to be like
feel like that's our story.
No, and like David doesn't know what I'm talking about, but do you watch Yellowstone?
No. Oh, yes, I know. I've seen it.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
So like it's not, first off, that's not great either. And secondly, it's not going to be like that. Like Kevin
Yeah.
Costner is not going to come in and like be this like suavely 60-year-old man and like be a part of like this, like nobody gets it's going to be weird. And there's going to be weird backgrounds and weird music and like chanting and like, no.
You much rather have a sexy cocktail video where
Yes.
somebody is stamping an ice cube
Right.
and having this little orange slice with it.
Like the
Poetic.
people that like freeze like 40,000 different types of ice or whatever, like, and have you ever seen those videos on Instagram where you're like, why do you have like 90 different types of ice cubes? And like, but like, I have a product for you finally. Like, I see these videos all the time. I'm ready to serve you. You're the market. Great.
Exactly.
I mean,
gotta
I like
find those
whiskey, so
markets.
if somebody can
Right.
tell me that there's a technological shape to an ice cube that we can help facilitate that makes whiskey taste better, then sure, okay,
Mhm.
I'll get on board with that.
Right.
We're into experimentation here. The R&D labs, the ice R&D labs are now open.
That's
Mhm.
awesome. Well, I was thinking too is like power carvers also carve a lot of ice sculptures too, so it'd be a cool way to brand your, your sculptures too.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, yeah, because it's I mean, you can throw your signature right in there. And it's there's certain things. I guess I probably need to read up more on the ice sculptors because I've known a couple of people who did that, but it was not in a capacity where we were really discussing business a whole lot. So it was that'd be kind of an interesting. Yeah, that would be an interesting crossover. I mean, there's applications to this sort of stuff that nobody thinks about. I mean,
Yeah.
when I started a branding iron company, people are like, you could make money doing that. And it's like, yeah, I mean, people use branding irons for all different types of stuff. And so, but there's all these little weird niches that you wouldn't necessarily consider. And but if you can service a particular trade, it's you should.
Absolutely. That's why I was saying, like when you said that, it all clicked with me because we sell to a lot of woodworkers, but we also sell to a lot of ice carvers because they use our tools to carve the ice. So I was just like, oh, just. Psh.
But that's why like the influencer and like community part is cool because I would have never thought about that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'd have never been like, wow, there's like a whole ice carving community and they should have an ice brander. I just was like, do
Ice
you like a
cubes.
cocktail? I like a cocktail too. Let's be friends.
I happen to, that's what I like at Saburrtooth. I kind of try targeting different audiences that I see out there, like the scroll saw artists or somebody I went after really, really hard. And it happens to be like the biggest area where people are content creators too. There's thousands of scroll saw artists out there right now. And to get on board with them was huge. I mean, also with laser and CNC, it also applies. Like I kind of put them all in the same category. So that was like the first thing I did when I got on board. It's just like, we need to target our friends here. Like they're all my friends. I'm like, friends, take some tools, enjoy. Like, let's have some fun. That's been like a really cool part of that too. Is like being able to help out people that you see and that are going to be bringing a good return in too.
Yep.
Ooh. Well, I'm excited to see like how everything goes as you guys enter into these new territories. When I bought from you, it literally was there. It was you and there's like one or two other brands that were out there at the time. This was like, I'm guessing like 4 years ago, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And I just looked clean and professional and looked like you knew what you were doing. And people like the reviews from people that I heard said it was a really good product. So like that's why I went for it. But now people want to see it in use constantly. They want to see it in people they follow because they trust that person. So I think that you're really smart, like shifting into this avenue and working with influencers because there's a lot of amazing people out there that are making every day and just getting a free branding iron and asking for content in return or making partnership deals with them for bigger things. Like, that's gonna, I think, elevate you and like you said, bring some personality, some authenticity to this page and I think really bring you up to the next level. So I think it's really cool to kind of watch where you are now in the business and just kind of seeing with Kristy coming on board and just seeing where it's gonna go in the future.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. So and yeah, it definitely would not be like I've said several times, would definitely not be possible on my own.
Well, I think what's nice and Dave's really hard on himself as far as like R&D goes. Like basically it's like if he was Steve Jobs, he'd have like iPhone 15 and never, but like to himself and never launch it. And you'd just be like waiting for an update. But I mean, in all sincerity, we like to think we have the best product on the market. And I'm sure that the other companies would disagree. But it doesn't mean that they have a bad product. Like it's branding iron. They have a great product, the turnaround time. But where we shine is the customer service, our turnaround time. We're, we want you to know that like Chris and Kevin, like put your brand, like they produce your brand, put it in, they ship it out. Paul or Patrick is the one cutting it. Marianne or Megan is your customer service, and they handle your digital design. But I think moreover, where I see companies being super successful and companies kind of missing the mark is that they're focusing too much on themselves and not enough on who the product serves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I think Dave always did, even before I came on. And then there was a bit of a hiatus when someone else was kind of managing the day-to-day. And so now that we're coming back in, really reinstating ourselves is the idea. I mean, it's like being an apparel company. Like you can buy a sweatshirt from 40 different companies, 4,000 different companies. But why you do it is you like the brand and you like who wears it. So.
Yeah. And you've tried it once and you can't get enough. No, but I think it's important, like you were saying, to pay attention to your audience, and to continue to be present in the community. One team that's really been impressing me over the last, year is just watching. I don't know if you guys know Onefinity CNC, but they're going to be at Workbench as well. Their team, they're continuing to bring on the right people, and they're having fun, and they're just goofing around with this community. And they're selling CNCs like crazy because the machine is amazing too.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you get the right people on your team that represent you, it just takes you to another level, and it cements you in this community. This community is full of some of the most amazing people you guys are going to ever meet. And they're super transparent to each other and so helpful. So I'm glad you're really diving in and joining all of us, because we're just a bunch of fun nerds who like to play in our garages and basements and make cool stuff.
But that's why so we found out about Workbench because David's first podcast with a guy named Ross, and he does R & Co designs. I'm going to get it wrong and then have to go back. But anyway, when I reached out to Ross to give him a branding iron to be like, hey, we love what you do, he was like, have you been to Workbench? Because if you haven't, it is the greatest thing ever, and I will put you in contact with the woman who does it, and this is what you need to do to get Gearheart out there, and we should do this and have you launch a TikTok. And I was like, wow, Ross, I have it, but thank you for overwhelming me and then providing me with so much information.
Well, that's how this community is, because we see if you're in the community long enough, you can see the avenues in which a company needs to go in to be a part of it, to actually like cement themselves in it. Like I've been going at this hard for since I had my kids, for like 7 years.
You were like, I have twins and an abundant amount of spare time, so let's do it at the same time.
Twins, a full-time job, and I did making at night, and I also was running like a at-home bakery at the time too. So yeah, just
you had a lot of sleep.
Yeah, I didn't sleep. That's why I called Night Carver Designs, because I carved at night when the kids finally went to bed, and would stay out there until whenever I could, as long as I could get up in the morning for my day job. So that's where that one stemmed from. But it's just, I needed an escape though, and that's what making is for me. It's like I just needed a place to run away from the kids and close the door and put a loud machine on.
And so I know that you're within Workbench, but like, do you run their social? What do you do for them?
I'm the social media director at Workbench Con, and I also help with the planning and everything.
Perfect.
I get to put my voice in on like speakers that are coming. I get to help guide brands that come to us, and all the content that you see on the page is all created by me. So
very cool.
So all the branding and all of that, and I do very similar things for Saburrtooth Power Carving as well. Also running NIGHTCARVER Designs, which has sadly kind of become this empty thing this last year being full time, because I'm so devoted to the other things. but that's still the other thing. And then I'm also launching my other company, which I put a poster in my garage for. So I kind of put it out there, but it's been kind of top secret because I feel like it is a very easily duplicated thing once someone's seen it. So that's been very tight-lipped. But I've been working on that. It's actually the reason I quit. I had a day job for 16 years in marketing and advertising. I was even working in like direct mail for like Papa John's, Pizza Hut, Domino's, all the pizza players, and doing their advertising for 16 years. I was in that role and I had just had enough. So I quit a year and a half ago, almost 2 years, pretty soon. And just was like, I'm going to start my own company. It's called Navigating Life Charts. It's really cool. It's for autistic kids. It's going to be awesome because both my boys are autistic. They're on the spectrum. So it's really close to my heart. It's completely different from all my horror and pop culture art that I make now. So like, I really don't like what I said. I don't want to do the day-to-day making of it, but I don't mind working, at the packing it up for stage, like you're saying, the hard times. And then working with influencers that would be great at launching my product. Like that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going straight to influencers once I'm ready because I know what will work and I need people to share their struggles and how my product helps solve those problems for them.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully.
That's awesome. Do you want to tell us now what the best pizza is since you marketed for all of them and you don't work in the industry anymore? Do you want to break your silence?
None of them. Your local mom and pop place is the one. Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm also from Springfield, Mass. We have a really heavy Italian area over here, so there's pizza joints everywhere. I can't tell you when the last time I've had like a Papa John's pizza or anything.
Yeah, that's like the kind of pizza you buy for like, a bunch of fourth graders.
It's also what we eat on campaigns like constantly.
I bet.
There's like a freshman 15 and then there's like a campaign like and you can tell when a campaign
just eating
was
that
not
butter,
going well.
just all that butter.
Man, some garlic dipping sauce.
Well, it's not even. I wish it's like somebody needs to. I don't know. No, never mind. Sorry. The ingredients for the Papa John's garlic butter are atrociously bad. It's like industrial poison.
It is delicious though.
Just talk dirty to me. Like it is so good.
I have a soft spot for the Pizza Hut of my youth, and in fact,
you have a pizza lamp.
Yeah, have one of the Pizza Hut like stained glass like light fixtures like they used to have over the tables in like the 80s. Is we have it hanging up in the house. So I do have a soft spot for that, but they all fell off big time decades ago. There was
also,
a time.
Your taste buds have changed and grown and no longer want that.
No, I still want like a 1986 Pizza Hut pizza that like came out in like a cast iron pan and was like so hot that like all that, like the thick red glasses and all that sort of stuff, like, and nobody had a cell phone. I'm deeply nostalgic for the Pizza Hut of my youth, but really not much else. But yeah, I've had I did go out on a limb and get like a personal pan pizza from like a Pizza Hut in a Target like a few years ago, and it was like, oh, I have it bowling now.
Listen,
like,
the breadsticks though with the dipping sauce are pretty good from Pizza Hut.
So
Let's not
okay,
lie.
see,
that's pretty good. Come on,
listen,
you can't front on some stuff.
I hope you enjoyed getting to know the awesome people who are behind the brand of Gearheart. They are going to be at Workbench Con, so make sure you come by and say hello to them. If you have not grabbed your ticket, please use NIGHTCARVER to save a beautiful $50 on your ticket. And remember, tickets do go up on February 1st, so don't wait. You're not going to want to have another price increase. That is due because tickets are going to be starting to be printed, processed, and badges created, and any tickets after February will be a rush. So again, thank you all for listening, and I look forward to seeing you all in about a month. And if you want to help support the show, you can shop any of my affiliates that are linked in my bio, especially the ones at Carhartt. And don't forget, I have a website full of goodies. All right, thank you again for listening.